Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the ROC Podcast. My name is Britt Allen, and I'm here with our new Arkansas State Director, Wil Cheatham. How's it going, Wil?
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Good. How's it been in Texas?
I like it. I've only been to Austin a couple of times, but I like coming down. I drove down, which I enjoyed because I got to come all the way from Dallas through Waco, Austin, and see all of Texas.
Nothing
great.
You just said sounds enjoyable because I know the traffic pattern through that road.
There is
terrible.
that, but otherwise, I liked it.
Well, good. Well, we appreciate you making the drive and coming all the way out here. So I want to start off a little bit about your story and your professional background. Like, tell us about you and where you come from and really how you ended up with ROC.
Sure, yeah. So my background is largely in law enforcement. I started my professional career in the FBI. I did 5 years in the FBI, started out in Little Rock, and then I went on to our DC office. I started out when I was in Little Rock, I worked largely in counterintelligence. And then when I got sent out to DC, I worked in our counterterrorism unit focused on terrorism financing. When I got out of the FBI, I went to law school back home, and then I worked in state government for a brief time, and then I was a deputy prosecuting attorney in a small county up in the northeast part of the state, where I handled a portfolio of drugs and low-level violent crime. I did that for a little while, so I'm pretty much, my whole background is in law enforcement. I'm criminal justice major in Spanish. And then I got to ROC because like I said, I was a prosecutor at the time, and this just kind of fell into my lap. It just came to me. I was looking at, I enjoyed the prosecution work, but when I was doing the prosecution work, it kind of got me thinking about a lot of different issues, especially with just all of our, I noticed a lot of different things. I think we could probably start doing better in Arkansas on criminal justice issues. And so it just so happened that ROC came across and fell into my lap. And so I jumped on it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about when you were a prosecutor. You said you started seeing some issues in the system that you hadn't before. Is there a particular story or like occurrence that sticks out in your mind that really made you realize, like, okay, we have some problems here that need fixing? Like, what started that for you?
So before I got to the prosecutor's office, I had never dealt with like civil asset forfeiture or anything because when I was in the FBI, I did all counterterrorism, so that just wasn't a thing for us then. And I saw at the prosecutor's office, we had all these cases where people are getting arrested with, like, I don't know, simple possession of drugs or maybe theft of property, something like that. Well, I started to see, okay, so they're getting arrested with these things, and all of a sudden, their property is getting seized and it's getting sold off all before they've even been convicted of a crime. And I was like, well, that seems, I don't know that I like that. And then there was also just, I saw a lot of people going to getting, like our felony classifications, for examples, can carry some pretty high sentences for crimes that I just remember thinking, geez, like, you get 20 years in prison for that. Like, we have our felony classifications go from D, C, B, A, and Y, D being the lowest, Y being the highest. And I saw a lot of crimes that were classified in our B felony range, which carries anywhere from 5 to 20 years in prison and a fine of up to, I believe, $15,000 or both. And there were just several, there were a lot of, like, the theft of property, for example. Theft of property, I think, is a B felony if it's over $25,000, which is like, yeah, all right, that's a lot. But then there's other crimes that fall into that category where I was like, geez, like that just seems like a really long time in prison for. There's nonviolent crimes that are classified as B felonies where I'm like, that's a long time in prison for a nonviolent crime. So anyways, I say all that to say I just started to see a lot of different things where I'm like, I bet we could do better, especially, like our county jail had a lot of low-level, our county jail was full, but it had a lot of low-level drug offenders in it. And I'm thinking, surely there's a way maybe we could keep these violent offenders who definitely need to be in there locked up, but then for everybody else, maybe there's something better we could be doing to get them in and out, so to speak, and hopefully get them back on the right path.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, because reentry is something that we focus on pretty heavily at Right on Crime. And that's something that you've expressed to me that you're really passionate about. So can you tell me a little bit about, why you care about reentry, what your hope is for your state? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So reentry, in my view, does three things. It saves, when implemented and executed correctly, it does three things. It saves the taxpayer money, it reduces recidivism, and it gets folks back to work. Those are three. I don't know who would have a problem with any of those three principles, and we're uniquely situated to execute successful reentry programs in Arkansas, because we have reentry facilities. We have, I believe, 6 of them with a little over, I think there's around 300 beds in those facilities, but they're underutilized, mostly, I think, because of a lack of education. I think people just don't know that they exist. I didn't know they existed when I was at the prosecutor's office. There was a lot of things that I didn't know existed while I was there, and I'm like, well, geez, I wish I had known that when I was a prosecutor. I could have helped people go to that. But anyways, these reentry facilities are, my hope and my goal is to really push these reentry facilities through education so that people know, look, we can alleviate our jail overcrowding, our prison overcrowding by pushing people through these reentry facilities, because they're still prisons. But how it works is when you become eligible for parole, or you're getting close to being eligible for parole, you can go to these facilities. And I've toured one that's in Little Rock a few times, and you can get sent to this facility while you're still in prison technically, but while you're there, they get you a job. They contract with employers. You have to work. You get drug tested every day. They have group therapy for drug problems. They even have regular therapy. They bill through Medicaid. I mean, it's very sophisticated, and their recidivism rate is very low. They help you get a driver's license. They do everything so that whenever you get out, you're hopefully good to go. And the other thing is, with these reentry facilities, it's like a 6-month mandatory stay. If you complete that, let's say you're like 18 months from parole. Well, if you go to this facility and you complete your 6 months there while you're still, you're within your 18-month time frame, well, you can get successfully discharged from parole upon successful completion. So that saves 12 months worth of taxpayer dollars to either house you in that facility or in prison. It's considerably less to house you in that reentry facility, because it's very expensive to house you in prison. So that's huge potential savings. And that's going to really clear up our jails, and again, keep violent offenders who are locked up, who are out there hurting people, keep them locked up. But everybody else, let's get people churned through these reentry facilities and save money, reduce recidivism, and get folks back to work.
Yeah, no, I love that. And all of that, at the end of the day, that's conservative policy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift a little bit and kind of look at your state as a whole. So tell me a little bit about what you feel Arkansas does really well when it comes to criminal justice, and then where you feel like the biggest gaps and opportunities are in Arkansas.
I think we do a couple of things well. We had some really great bills come out of this recent legislative session. One that I'm very excited about is a work for credit program that we've implemented. So if you're on probation, parole, or any sort of post-release supervision, you can, for every 30 days of verified work, you can get time off of your probation or parole or post-prison transfer, whatever you're on, which is great because it's encouraging people to go to work. And that's also, here again, it's saving taxpayer money, because if you're working and you get those 30 days off and you get all of your time off, well, now we don't have to spend money on your parole officer, your probation officer, or your drug test while you're at the probation officers. We don't have to spend any money on that because you're good to go. So that's great. We actually had a bill this session that went through, which was great, that is encouraging the use of reentry facilities, and it's going to work with the Department of Corrections to make sure these facilities are being used. So I think we have a lot of great policy that's especially coming out of this session that's really working towards encouraging reentry or encouraging criminal justice policies that save taxpayer money, and it hits all three of those principles that I've talked about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then I always love to add on a positive note. which it sounds actually like there's a lot of positive stuff going on in Arkansas, so maybe it's not needed, but I'd love to ask you, what makes you feel optimistic about the state of criminal justice, whether that's in your state specifically or as a nation?
I think, especially in Arkansas, I think our legislature is very receptive to new ideas, mostly because I think there's, like, especially with the reentry facilities, we have a lot of resources already there. I think people just don't know about all the stuff that we have. And so I'm excited about Right on Crime because I think I can really provide a lot of education to all these stakeholders who they make the decisions, which is great because I can bring all this information to them, and I think they're very receptive to it, especially from a saving taxpayer money standpoint. So I'm looking forward to that. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that.
Awesome. That's great. And then the last question, if people want to keep up with you and your work, where can they find you?
I'm on X, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Wil Cheatham AR.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Wil, for coming on the show. We appreciate it, and we're so glad that you're on the team, and now we have Arkansas to look forward to.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Absolutely.
Great.
And thank you guys for joining us for the Right on Crime podcast. To reach out to our team or to learn more about these issues, you can visit our website at rightoncrime.com. And until then, we'll see you next time.